This is Suchitra Vijayan, and thank you for joining us today. In collaboration with maraa, the Polis Project launched the Profiles of Dissent 6 months ago, a new series centered on remarkable voices of dissent and courage in India and their personal and political histories as a way to reclaim our public spaces. These are prominent journalists, writers, poets, activists, and human rights defenders who have been in prison. Profiles of Dissent is a way to question and critique the state that has used legal means to crush dissent illegally. We also intend to ground the idea that despite repression, voices of resistance continue to emerge every day. As a part of our programming, today we are hosting Prashant Kanojia, who's an Indian journalist and activist. In 2019, he was arrested by the Uttar Pradesh Police for being critical of the UP Chief Minister Ajay Mohan Bisht. The Supreme Court later asked the government to release him. Kanojiya was again arrested on the 18th of August this year and jailed for 80 days by the UP government for his tweets. Today, as a part of our conversation series, he speaks, followed by which we'll have a Q&A session. At this point, we also urge all of our audience to send in your audience question. Prashant, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Suchitra, and thank you, Polis Project for inviting me. So I could speak, which I often don't get chance in India. Hi guys, I'm Prashant Kanojia. I'm a Delhi-based in India. I'm a journalist and an activist. I was arrested by UP government twice. One first time it was in June 8, 2019, where I stayed 5 days in Lucknow jail, which is the capital of Uttar Pradesh. And the second time I was arrested on 18th August 2020, where I stayed 80 days in Lucknow jail, the same jail where I was lodged last year. So I got a bail from High Court on the surety of 2 lakh rupees, and the last time I got bail on 40,000 rupees. So basically, the whole idea behind the my arrest is not only that I'm a journalist or I come from so and so background. It's basically a tradition which has developed in India where they arrest writers, maybe the actors, or maybe the poets who speaks about dissent, who talks about the rights of poor people, rights of Dalits, tribal, untouchables, whoever, like minorities. I think there is a long list of dissenters who are lodged in jail. There are a number of names which we can talk about hours and hours. We talk about the way they've been arrested, and I would like to tell you about the recent arrest of Arnab Goswami, the chairman of and editor-in-chief of Republic Channel, which is supposed to be a right-wing channel and very pro-government channel. And when he was arrested for abetment of suicide, he was released on bail in 7 days. And his case was listed in Supreme Court the very next day, 24 hours. And there are a lot of people, Varvara Rao, Sudha Bhardwaj, Umar Khalid, Sharjil Imam, Asif Baltana, and Mahesh Raut, Rona Wilson. There are a lot of names who are in jail. They're not being released on bail, and they've been lodged in jail without any substantial evidence, and no investigation is taking place where they can be pointed out they were culprit, or they had their hand in any of the charges which police or maybe the agencies which is like working under the government knows have framed them. So I think the way they have been kept, there's an exceptional case of Father Sten Swami. He's more than 80 years old. He's been lodged in Taloja jail, Maharashtra by NIA, and he is actually he is not well. He is an old age man, and he's suffering from the lot of diseases. And then he asked for the sipper because he couldn't drink from the cup. So the High Court asked NIA to file a reply in 20 days. So can you imagine an old man? He's asking for a sipper, and the court asked NIA to submit a reply for 20 days. So for getting a straw, it takes 20 days. But on another hand, the people who are actually perpetrators, who are actually part of the system, who are actually creating all the violences in India, from sitting in the news channel and actually penetrating poison across the common people, are being given bail in just 7 days, or not in a case. It was not a case of dissenting. It was a case of abetment of suicide, and He got out of jail in 7 days. So if I'm telling you, if Supreme Court has did this, I support this. But this should be a precedent actually. This should be for everyone. This should not be the special for the special cases. This should be for everyone, for all the citizens, to get your petition in the Supreme Court and get a hearing in the next day. It's something very impossible, which is like you can't even imagine like how common people can approach a Supreme Court. It's very expensive, and these people who are in jail, uh, I think they are actually suffering in jail. But what about their families? Their families are suffering more. It is not about uh, fighting a own battle, but it is all about the economic condition, because these activists and these writers who are working and very pro poor people, pro Adivasis, pro untouchables, they are not that rich. They could hire a lawyer who charge 26 lakh rupees for a hearing. So the criminal justice in India is actually under the question mark. Our judiciary is under the question mark. Our parliament is under the question mark. And when you raise question against the judiciary, when you raise the question against the wisdom of the judge, you get charged under the contempt of court. What happened with the comedian Kunal Kamra? Recently, he was being charged with the contempt of court for making fun of Supreme Court, that how Supreme Court gave so much importance, and it was so lenient towards the Arnab Goswami, who got out of the jail in 7 days. And if you raise questions, so what happens in India when you ask question to certain bodies? So what happens? They believe in India. What political? I think political groups feel these organizations are sacrosanct, and you don't need to ask any questions. So I don't understand. At one hand, you call India the largest democracy, and on the other hand, when you ask question, you're put in the jail. They torture you, because when I was lodged in the jail, when police took me from my daily residence to the Lucknow jail, I was kept in a police custody for 24 hours. They gave me electric shocks. They beaten me with a baton, and they could have killed me. And there is no balance and check in Indian judicial process, where they verify whether these charges are should be framed or not. The person should be kept in jail, because it is generally, it has been already said, jail is always an exception. Bail should be given to everyone. Bail is basically a fundamental right. I don't know why the dissenters are not getting bail. They are being wrongfully lodged in the jail without. They can't meet their families. They can't meet their lawyers. Recently, the Siddiq Kaplan, a journalist, was arrested when he was away for the reporting for the Hathras rape, which is again in Uttar Pradesh, and he was again arrested by UP government, and he's lodged in Mathura jail. But what government says, he was going to the Hathras where the incident took place, where the girl was raped. He was going to create a riot there. So I don't understand how this government get inputs that journalists is going to perform his duties, are going for creating the riot. We are not creating the riot. We are just speaking. We are just speaking because our constitution gives it's our fundamental right to speak. It's a right of expression, right to like, I don't understand how it is going on, because our Prime Minister Narendra Modi goes to United States of America, he goes to the France, he goes to everywhere. He actually says this a lot of time, that I come from the land of Buddha, I come from the land which is the largest democracy. On the other hand, if you look at the Press Freedom Index, where our India ranking is 141. So it's such a preposterous thing, a country which is claiming to be the largest democracy, and on the other hand, we are on 142. So it's really disheartening. It is really not the idea of what Dr. Ambedkar and what Bhagat Singh or what maybe Mr. Gandhi or maybe Mr. Nehru would have planned. This is really not the India what world has been thinking, sitting on the other side. This is not the India what you look in the films. This is not the India what you have read in the books. This is really a very dangerous land, and I'm really amazed how these people are actually suppressing our voices, and they are not they are not being accountable for what they are doing. If you write a report against government, if you open any scams which they are being doing, the businessman put you the defamation charges of 4,000 crore rupees. What happened with the wire? And maybe the Niranjan Takle, who exposed the murder of Judge Loya, who was investigating the case of current Home Minister of India, Mr. Amit Shah. He was he actually suffered a lot. He has to go underground. His security was completely compromised. So we in India have been staying under the fear. We could be killed. We could be lynched. Anything could happen to us and our family. I've been getting a lot of abuses, a lot of uh, death threats on my inbox, maybe on Twitter, maybe on Facebook, or maybe on other social media, where I could report all those things. But how many FIRs should I file? There are several. There are thousands. There could be in if I start trading it, it could be in millions. But it's really disheartening. At We say that we believe in Constitution of India, but once Ambedkar said during the Constitution Assembly, he said if this Constitution, I think if Constitution is bad and if the people who are ruling in India will be good, the Constitution will be proved good. And if it's really bad and like if it's a good constitution and the people are bad, it will be approved a bad constitution. So the constitution is such a great framework what Baba Sahib Ambedkar did, but now it's really difficult to speak. We can't even access our fundamental right. We can't go anywhere. We can't ask any question. If you file a RTI to ask question, they don't give you that reply. So it's really difficult for being a journalist in India, because the moment you start asking question, you get out of your job. The organization which is actually now earlier it was editor driven, now it's owner driven. They throw you out. You get a death lynching. You get a rape threat specifically for the women. When the women speak, I don't know what other people think, but if in the male cases, a male only gets a death threat, but the women who are actually dissenters gets death threats along with the rape threats, because we have seen that because the Pinjara Tod, two Pinjara Tod activists is in jail, and I can see on the social media how these right wingers, how these people who belongs to RSS, Bajrang Dal, and Vishwa Hindu Parishad is been abusing them. What happened with Safura Zargar? She was an activist who actually working on this in Okhla. She was actually the activist who was working for anti-CNRC protest. She was abused. Her pregnancy was mocked. I'm really shocked what is happening around. And when I was in jail, I met a lot of people. I met a lot of people who are not criminals. I met a lot of people who are actually came in the jail just because they speak truth. They were in jail because they are continuously raising question on the acts of government. And the way Indian jails and police system or maybe the judicial process is operating, I don't think I think it's completely according to the what British left us. These whatever we are doing currently operating under, it's completely a British system, and this government is not coming out of its British colonial obsession, and they've been oppressing us in the similar way what British used to do the freedom fighters who were fighting for the freedom of India. And there are a lot of names. I could take a lot of names, but I don't think there's a time where I could speak all the names. But yes, we are suffering here. We have been talking about globally what is happening, but being a dissent is not only a problem of India, but it's a global pandemic which is actually prevailing across the world in every country which is ruled by dictators, and their voice are suppressed. They've been killed, they've been kidnapped, their families have been given a trouble, but nobody speaks. Nobody speaks. Nobody's taking care of them. Nobody's talking about them. But I'm really grateful to the Polis Project who keeps giving the voices to the dissenters. And I think there are a lot of people who are with us and supporting us from the behind. And I'm pretty sure about this. If all the voices come together, we'll overcome with the dictator who is ruling currently India.
Prashant, thank you so much for that. We have a lot of questions coming in. So, first question, you spoke about Dr. Ambedkar. We can see Dr. Ambedkar right behind you.
Yeah,
Dr. Ambedkar gave us a revolutionary constitution, a
absolutely.
constitution that said that everyone within the territorial limit of India would be equal citizens. Yet, his revolutionary vision is not only not implemented in many ways, but now increasingly that constitution is being stripped down. Um, you're not only a journalist, but you've also been someone who has been an activist, speaking courageously outside. At this point in time, do you think there is a way for us to reclaim the constitution that Dr. Ambedkar gave us? If so, how do you think the way forward is?
I think we can reclaim what was the ethos of constitution when what Baba Sahib Ambedkar would have imagined when he was drafting constitution. But I think there is a need of a political will which is missing in India. You can imagine how these people are actually oppressing us because we have a very poor, very a toothless tiger who is sitting in the opposition. So it is a need of an hour when we need a proper opposition who will be taking care of, who will be talking for us, or maybe talking for the dissenter when the Dalits are being killed, when the tribal land is being grabbed by multinational companies, and they're not being charged with anything. So I think there is a need of a good opposition, and which students has been playing till yet. I think in the 6 year of Narendra Modi government, student has played a very important role of being an opposition. And I think if these political parties get a good tooth tiger to fight, I think we someday we could reclaim it. But it's really difficult path, and we have to sacrifice a lot of people in the way.
We actually have one of the audience questions coming in. It says, what is the effective strategy to bring back the old glory days of India? I actually might have to disagree with our audience and say that maybe the glory days of India was never a glory day. Not everybody had equal access to the constitution. Would you like to take that question? Effective I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you want to address the question.
I think we've been talking about this a lot, that our India had a very golden era when it was called Sone Ki Chidiya. But I think it was never what people think exactly, because 85% of Indian population never got their rights before independence. They were barred from going schools. Women can't go to school, they can't study, they can't choose their own partner. So these people should understand the glory period was for the people who were feudal, who were the landlords, who were the kings of many states which used to exist in India. It was never for us. And when people say me, why you use very harsh language? So when I say my past or my ancestral past was not with a golden spoon, it was filled with insult. It was filled with all the oppression which people can't even imagine. And people should start reading Annihilation of Caste. I think I would suggest all the readers, you should read Annihilation of Caste. You could understand what we have felt and what we are going through and what our ancestors would have gone through.
We have more questions coming in. This question is from one of our listeners in California. It must be really early in the morning for them. The question they're asking is about your safety. Mr. Kanojia, thank you for your service. You've been not only been a brave journalist, but also an important activist. You've already been arrested twice. As those who are sitting outside India, we are deeply concerned about your safety and safety of many dissenters. For example, is it even safe for someone like you to even come on? I'm rephrasing the sentence because it has some mistakes. Even come on platforms like Polis Project to talk. Can you speak to us about the dangers that journalists face, but also your own personal safety? So the audience,
Uh,
they're thanking you, but they also kind of want to know because you've been arrested twice, and the series of things that have come since.
Definitely, our security has always been compromised, and we are always under the impression that we might get killed. I can't travel freely. So that's I think a new problem which I'm facing. I can't go out alone. Uh, if you talk about Uttar Pradesh, so now Uttar Pradesh state is completely cordoned off for me. I can't go there for the reporting because there are many good people who have already told me that you are lucky that you stay in national capital Delhi. If you have been staying in Uttar Pradesh, we would be celebrating your death anniversary, maybe the second death anniversary. So it's difficult. It's difficult not for only me, but I'm concerned for my family safety, which is I think more vulnerable than me because I stay outside. I have a lot of people to go around, but the family is very vulnerable things when it comes for the activists and the dissenter. So it's we are just fighting and we don't know what will happen. We don't have any security because in India you don't get security if you are like if you are facing threat. So it's going as it is. Like we can't speak on that because it's going on. We are just waiting a bullet to get shot, or maybe we will keep fighting.
I'm going to have there bunch a couple of other questions that are coming in. This question looks at your reporting. What are as a reporter, what are the areas and issues you think that are underreported? Every day we hear stories. We hear only some stories. We, for instance, heard about. I think I'm rephrasing the questions because the question is quite long. Here, the audience question is that there's a disproportionate amount of attention given to, for example, things that relate to Bollywood, especially the recent death of one of its actors. What are the issues you think that are not properly covered, and what can we do? Where can we access such information?
I think the question is completely right. We don't get actually, if you look at the Indian, uh, maybe the mainstream media, which is actually Indian media, you'll more find the Bollywood news and maybe you find the gossips of television. Rather, you'll be finding the oppression or maybe the uprising, wherever it is happening in India. So the main reason is behind I feel the responsibility is on the audience because in India specifically when it comes for the audience they don't pay for the news. They don't want to get the credible news by paying it. So they want the news should be served in the plate with free of cost. So when a businessman, maybe the Ambani and Adani will be paying for the news, so definitely their interest would be protected. The moment you start paying for the news, your interest will be protected. So people should start supporting the independent organization, which is ad free, which don't take any advertisement from any business houses. And actually, you can go there, you can read there. If you talk about India, I would say the Wire, Scroll, News Laundry. These are the organizations where you can find a lot of report, which is we'll never find in television or maybe in newspaper or maybe in the magazines. So Indian media is completely now. Earlier it was a business journalism. Now they are in the business of journalism. So it's a normal corporate office where you go, you do what owners want. You don't do what journalists are supposed to do. So there are limited people who are actually writing good reports in India. Others are just working because they have the certain family responsibility. So that's why they're working. Otherwise, in Indian media, you don't need journalism. You can hire a actor and you can just make them sit on television and speak the script what owner has provided them.
I actually have a follow up question on that. You actually said that today from editor driven journalism, now you're owner driven journalism. Do you then see an avenue for, say, places like Dalit Camera or other Dalit Bahujan led organizations as the alternative? One of the other things that we are constantly speaking about is how deeply Brahminical the Indian news and research, even news research and business is. Do you think that is a way forward? Is that something that can be built as a credible alternative to what you see today as the existing problems within reporting and journalism?
Yes, I think the way Dalit Camera or maybe the Police Project, and there are a lot of people like who are working, and I could name a lot of things, a lot of names, and who are actually working on the micro level, not on the national level, but on the micro level, maybe on the district level, like they have actually created the Bahujan platform, which when I say Bahujan, it is not only a Dalit or untouchable. Bahujan means Dalit, OBCs, tribals, women, Muslims, and LGBT community, everyone which is vulnerable are Bahujan. So their voices are raised by their own organization. Earlier, it was like a Dalit women get raped. It's a news for because everyone loves news or when Dalit is beaten up. So in India, specifically in Brahminical structure. So they don't publish news of Dalit uprising. They don't publish news of women uprising. You could imagine. I was in Indian media when the Me Too movement came. So I could see the anger of the patriarchal male in organization, how they were angry on women who were raising voice during the Me Too movement, and they are angry when the Chandrasekhar Raman was protesting in Saharanpur. They were angry when the Jignesh Memani was talking about Dalit rights in Gujarat. So they like when these people are beaten up. They don't like when there is an uprising. And specifically, Bahujan platforms, Dalit cameras, and all those YouTube channels are actually playing a very important role. And I think social media is really a revolution for Bahujans. We started speaking. We could speak. I would say I am the product of social media. Otherwise, I would have to work in several newspapers, which is completely Brahmanical and completely under the corporate structure, where you don't speak, you just follow order. And so whatever we learned during our journalism school, we don't find it anymore in Indian media, and it is only a online space or websites which is actually talking about. So where we got opportunity to exercise whatever we learned during our school, or maybe during our the training period.
We have another audience question. It says Indian judiciary, especially the Supreme Court, is biased. How do you think it can be? It says, how can it pull back? I was wondering we could kind of go back into you briefly touched upon this, the bias of the Supreme Court. And I don't know how to answer the second part of the question. Can it be changed?
I think the problem is collegium system, which is I think very dangerous system which exists in India, where the going judge actually nominates the upcoming judge who will be taking charge of CGI, which is almost, I think it's a very dangerous precedent which is going on. And if you talk about the lower judiciary, or maybe the high courts, or maybe the district courts, where the judges are actually coming by clearing the exams, but these judges who are sitting in Supreme Court are actually the nominated ones. So if you start looking deeply into the Indian judiciary system, specifically if I talk about Supreme Court, so you will find only 200 families are only taking care of Supreme Court judge chair since the independence. So these people are recommending their own someone going out, so they actually recommend someone niece name, someone son name, someone son-in-law name. So these are actually, I say, these is the kangaroo court of 200 families. And definitely the Supreme Court objectively give decision on many things, but they are ultimately they are humans. They don't come from the Mars. So they have their own biases. They have prejudices in their mind. So when they actually start giving the judgment, I don't know how they perform their duties, but there is a certain bias, because these people are coming from the recommendation. They are not coming from the merit. These people keep talking about merit. People should come. The reservation should be slashed. So this 200 people, this 200 families getting reservation for the Supreme Court, this should be quashed. I think the moment collegium system get closed, I think there would be some hope for judicial process in Supreme Court.
We are still taking, we have another 10 or 15 minutes left. So we are still taking the audience questions if people want to send them in. There's another question for you from Berlin that says, Dear Mr. Kanojia, what are the ways in which those of us living outside the country can help you? I know that the battle against the Hindu Rashtra is long. We also understand that many journalists and dissenters like you are being locked up. So, what are the ways in which those outside the country can help? What material ways in which we can help?
I think it's really important that, and I'm really grateful if the person on the other side who has question, who is thinking of supporting, and it's really needed, because in India it's really difficult to get a support when you are a dissenter, because most of the people are talking against you, because this society has been ruled by Brahminical idea, and they ultimately have to follow what the people are in power is saying, because your business, your jobs, your family could be compromised with this. But I think this country and the present Prime Minister Narendra Modi is very conscious about his international image. And I think people who are sitting outside India, if they start speaking, they should write the pieces in the international publication about what is happening in India. Definitely, it can make a lot of changes because Mr. Modi, Mr. Amit Shah, and his government is very conscious about their international image. They feel they are the superpower. They feel that whole country is looking at India. So I think world should start looking at India. They should look in India what is happening. They should look in India what is happening to 85% population of people who are actually suppressed, oppressed, and not getting their fundamental right, which is supposed to get according to the constitution. And that is the only thing. International shame is the only thing which could, I think, can make difference in India.
Also, I think it's time for a lot of these diasporic organizations and people to come together
Absolutely.
because within the diaspora, in my own experience, I see that even those who might not openly call or claim to be part of Hindutva flirt with Hindutva. They might call it in the name of culture, but tradition, but the support for Hindutva is so powerful that I feel that it's time for those who also in the diaspora who who feel deeply against this should also come together. Maybe build those coalitions now moving forward because this is going to be a long haul. We have another question. This one says, when the judiciary, executive, and the political are rotten in the system, what is the alternative? So, a lot of the questions we are getting is about the alternative, which is very promising for me. So, what is the alternative?
I think it is. I completely agree. It's very important. Judiciary and executive. It's very important. But I initially said about this the political will. Until unless we don't have good people in politics, until unless we don't have good people representing in the upper and the lower house in the people. When I say good people, so I say people coming from the poor background, people coming from uh, the the background which is neglected completely by this Brahminical society. So they are not getting opportunity. And so you can imagine only only 15% people have got opportunity to rule India. So if I say a lot of countries in West have developed a lot, it is just because of diversity. So we don't have diversity until unless we don't have diversity in the executive, diversity in the judiciary, the efficiency will be always missing. And I think the alternative is only a political thing. And until unless someone good people coming in the power is the only alternative. Other thing we have to face this thing. People will keep changing. New people will be coming and taking charges, but I think things will remain same. Uh, so that's the only alternative. I think the political alternative. Good people joining politics. The one Plato said, if you're not participating in politics, so ready to be ruled by bad people. So that is happening in India.
Prashant, I'm going to be a little optimistic and say, would someone like you join politics? Would you run for public office? Because you have a reputation for not only being a very well respected journalist and an activist, but you always had a reputation for speaking fearlessly and speaking fearlessly for all communities that are in resistance. Would you think of yourself in that leadership position? Because often the remarkable people I meet never see themselves running for public office. Would you see yourself doing that?
It's a good thing, and I never thought about it, but definitely I'm gonna give a thought about it. But I think the good people, if I'm talking about the dissenters who speaks about the people rights, who speaks about the tribal rights, or maybe the untouchable rights, they want to come in politics. It is not nobody. If you start going asking people coming to India, and if you start asking people on the street, they want to be a member of parliament, you want to be a member of legislative assembly, nobody will deny it. And it's really fact, nobody will deny it. But you to get into the politics, to get a ticket to contest election is a very expensive affair. You need to have a huge lot of money to enter in politics, and apart from that you should have some political background, and your ancestor or maybe your father or maybe your grandfather should be a politician. So that's a primary, I would say, criteria to get into the politics. But it is an exceptional case. I would not never generalize it that you should fulfill these criteria to get into politics. But yes, In future, if I get an opportunity, definitely I'll be participating in politics. But yes, uh, many like being a journalist, I have met a lot of politicians. I'm like very good relation with a lot of politicians, not as a journalist or maybe as the he was not my subject, but there are a lot of my good friends who are now into the politics and successful politicians. And they say like, Prashant, you speak very harsh, and I think when election happens, so most of the elections are being operated by these Brahminical society, Brahminical people, Brahminical mindset people. So you've been speaking about them, and the moment you enter in the politics, so your whole scenario will change. People will start opposing you because your faith is completely anti-Hindutva faith, and the people and the most of the political parties in India are like they keep flirting with soft Hindutva. So I'm also untouchable for them. So uh, basically that's the problem. And I think there are a lot good of people. Recently, one of my junior friends, Sandeep Saurav, who contested election in Bihar and is now MLA. Jignesh Memani is an MLA, he's a friend. But I think more people should enter in, start in politics. And specifically, I would say women. Women, so you will find the feminist groups. There are a lot of groups who are working for the rights of women, but they should start contesting election, because until unless you don't have at least 50% representation in parliament, the women will never get chance, never get justice. Similarly, happens with all the groups. You need the equal representation for everyone. So we don't have equal representation. That's why we are suffering.
We're already close to the end of the segment. So the last comment I'm going to read is a comment that has come from Delhi. The audience member wants to be anonymous, but says, this is more of a thank you note. This is a thank you to both Prashant Kanojia and Jagisa Arora for your consistent fight. In a time when India is becoming deeply communal and divided, as a couple and as journalists, you give us great hope. Prashant, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Again, I know, I see, I think, I feel I know you very little, but I do know Jagisa, and I've been in conversations with her for the last few months.
Thank
Again, like our audience said, you both are both remarkable people, and I'm so glad that you both of you exist. And again, thank you for making time and joining us today.
thank you, Suchitra, and thank you, the Polis Project, for inviting me. Thank you so much.
Prashant Kanojia's work, you can follow Prashant Kanojia at PJ Kanojia on Twitter. He's a journalist and his reporting can be found at The Wire. Again, thank you so much for joining us. And then we look forward to featuring more voices of dissent. Prashant, thank you for joining us today.